I'm not sure what you mean. It does need to be updated. That's why I'm here, you geschmuckene.
Thank you for once again clicking on this bullcrap channel that I call People of Reddit. Today we're exploring the subreddit where the customer is always somehow smarter than the professional. Well, one of those subreddits. Today we're in r/talesfromtechsupport. Our first post comes from user Sergeant Kashim. It's entitled, "That's Not a Clock." In the wonderful world of healthcare IT, we have some of the best educated Luddites the world has yet produced as our clients. Enter PhD, a psychologist at one of our remote sites. Sure, I can help you get connected to the EHR. I'll need your ConnectWise session ID. Do you see the little panel of icons on the bottom right-hand corner of the screen next to the clock?
No, I don't see the clock at all.
Okay, which screen are you on? What do you see?
I'm just on this screen where I see all my icons.
And you don't see a clock in the bottom right-hand corner, down where the volume icon and wireless connections are?
No clock. It just says 8:05 a.m.
Yeah, that's the clock. And the little icons to the left of that.
That is not a clock. That is just the time.
You can lead a horse to water. You can very, very carefully lead a horse to water. But you can't make them think, especially if they've got more letters after the name than you. I'm trying to take a positive spin on this. I think he was trying to do something profound with you there.
What is a clock? What are any of us but dust in the wind?
Now, I was thinking maybe he's one of those stickler teachers, like the kind of people when you say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" they say, "I don't know, may you?" And maybe there's some weird way he could weasel out of calling that a clock, so I looked up the definition for clock, which is not something I want in my Google history. Clock! A mechanical or electrical device for measuring time, indicating hours, minutes, and sometimes seconds, typically by hands on a round dial or by displayed figures. So it turns out it doesn't have to be physically hung on a wall to be considered a clock. So piss off, Freud. Next post is entitled, "That projector hasn't worked for over a year. You can't fix it. How did you fix it?" So for context, I worked for a little while at a school that uses a lot of outdated tech, and they bought some projectors a few years back and installed them on the ceiling, making it nearly impossible for someone to check if it has an issue. So this class decides to watch a movie that had something to do with what they were seeing at the time. Unfortunately, the classroom they had selected had a projector that supposedly didn't work. So they call me because their computer wouldn't even detect the projector. I got up to the ceiling to check it out, and I started to see if I could turn it on manually. I couldn't. I checked if the cables were loosely connected, they weren't. Then the teacher said, "Don't waste your time, that thing's been broken for over a year." A student made the original joke, "Have you tried to turn it off and on again?" A few laughed, but then I remembered that these classrooms sometimes had a switch to turn on the electrical flow to the projector. I eventually found it on the side of the teacher's desks and decided to give it a flip. It wouldn't hurt to try. Turns out no one touched that switch for over a year. The projector immediately lit up, and it connected to the computer in a few seconds. Afterwards, the teacher just stared at me and repeatedly told me that it was broken and asked how I fixed it. Before leaving, I simply said, "I turned it on." Now, user Tangerine Band pointed out the best phrase I've ever heard to describe every single school IT department I've ever come in contact with. "We've tried nothing and we're all out of ideas." We had a few good stories from high school tech support, including the time that back in the day, the mouse had the ball in the bottom of it, and the IT lady had to come in and say, okay, let's be mature about what I'm about to say, because there's no other way to say it. Somebody took all the mice balls. And obviously we laughed. I don't know what she expected. Have some joy in your job, lady. But the best one was when one of my friends swapped the keyboards in the computer lab to one computer sitting next to the other computer. He got called down to the office a couple class periods later because they found out that he was the last one logged into the computer. And with a stern look of disapproval, the principal told him, "We had the computer lady down there for 2.5 hours trying to figure out what was wrong with the computer." And he laughed. He laughed in their faces. It took your computer lady 2.5 hours to figure out that the keyboards were switched? This one comes from user Rocky Moose and is entitled, "Your IT, so you do it." I'm just gonna quit instead. How's that? Background. I owned a small software company. The nonprofit organization down the hall asked us if we could donate an hour once a week to help with IT, Active Directory, and Exchange stuff. The manager there was a friend of mine from outside work. I agreed since it felt like a nice pro bono thing to do for a cause I supported, and she promised to be a gatekeeper. And for a long while, it worked out quite well. Once a week, one of us would walk down the hall to their suite. She'd give us a small list of IT honeydews. We'd even get cookies. She did a great job of keeping users under control and appreciated our donation of time and expertise. It was good karma. Then she left the organization. Stupidly, I thought nothing would change. So I go down there a couple weeks later for the usual IT and cookies. Karen, of course, is moving offices and needs help moving her computer. Damn it, Jim, I'm a software developer, not a moving company. Goes through my head. Nevertheless, I help unplug everything from her standard desktop-sized workstation. I'm going to need your help carrying everything to your new office. I explain that I'm recovering from surgery and simply cannot carry heavy objects. She's miffed, but helps me get a cart and we move the computer. This is back in the days of heavy, large CRT 19-inch monitors. The ones that weigh close to 50 pounds. There's already an identical monitor. Same brand, same size, in the new location. What about the monitor? She says. I plugged it into the computer that's already in your new office. It's identical. But I want my monitor. Points at the old one. Like I said, I can't carry heavy items. It's easier if you just move all your post-it notes from your old monitor to your new one. You couldn't get new post-it notes? I realized they didn't have the app back then, so maybe I'm being a little harsh. That's not my job, she says. That's your job. Move the monitor. And that was the screw this, I quit moment. I just lost it. Karen, this is very decidedly not my job. I volunteer my time here. I already told you I'm recovering from surgery, and I'm not moving a 50-pound monitor for the same reason you won't. It's too heavy. You're on your own. I walked out super pissed. As well you should have. I imagine that the screw this noise I quit moment comes a lot quicker when you're donating your time. The following morning, I go in again to talk to the executive director. I explain that we can't help with IT anymore. We have to focus on our own business and would not be donating any more time. I offered to send one of my colleagues down just to finish hooking up Karen's computer, but he would not be moving any heavy objects, and I'd be happy to recommend an IT consulting company for ongoing support. Of course, they have no choice, so that's what happens. Best part, when my coworker comes back from the last task, he tells me, "Guess what?" I oblige. What? She moved the monitor. I can't believe it. Apparently she figured out a way to haul that 50-pound monstrosity of a monitor to her new desk. What happened to the monitor that was already there, I asked. It's still in there. She asked me to move it to the old office. Now these old CRT monitors are huge. There's barely enough room on a standard office cube desk for one of them, let alone two. Tell me you didn't move it, I pled. No freaking way, he says. She barely has enough room now on that tiny desk for her Beanie Babies and telephone. I still get goosebumps at the thought of Karen sitting there with two ginormous monitors on her desk, surrounded by her post-it notes and stuffed animals. I'd say this belongs on Pro Revenge, but it was just kind of, I don't know, I guess the universe that got revenge on her for you. User Black Gaff said, "I can just smell the AOL dial-up from this post. Scent of burning plastic and silicone intensifies." User NotFun87 had a similar experience. In my 20s, I wanted to do something good and volunteered as a general IT guy in a non-profit organization. I didn't expect a pat on the back nor a gold star, but quite fast the people running the thing started to behave like they paid me, and I got extremely rude calls when something broke. I did my best with what I got, but it was just trying to make old, donated, often faulty hardware to work. One day the office manager really tore into me when her PC no longer booted. Just a broken HDD and I had backups. But that wasn't enough. I was screamed at that I'm incompetent and I waste her valuable time by not being able to make everything run smoothly. At that point, I finally got it that the thank God we have an IT guy in the beginning, all I had ever gotten from the whole thing was just abuse and taking my help for granted. I let her know how I felt and got all kinds of threats about lawsuits. She had nothing on me, but the whole time there was a big eye-opener on relations between users and IT. Lawsuits? I'm gonna sue you if you stop giving me free things? Did she know we fought a whole war about slavery? It does surprise me how quickly you find that people will take a thing for granted. It reminds me of the quote of a comedian comedian, and he said something along the lines of, "How quickly does the world owe you a thing that you didn't know existed 5 seconds ago?" Words to live by. Next post. Don't use Control F, use Control H. I didn't know what those shortcuts were until I read this. So a few years back, one of my publishers called me in to help with an emergency project. Basically, me translating and editing a huge body of boring-ass text. And it had to be done in the office, because it was a key national project. In the office, there was a girl about my age who was relatively new. She just sat there all week working intensely but slowly, mumbling and looking stressed. On the second to last day of my project, we're alone in the office. I make some comment about, "Oh, this is so incredibly tedious." She says something to the effect of, "You're telling me." We talk for a bit and I explain what I'm doing. "What are you doing?" Apparently for an equally huge book, someone really high up in the government decided he didn't like a bunch of the specific terms they made up for the project, so at last minute, hands over a list of 40 or so. They all need to be swapped out. She's been at it for like 8 days. I'm thinking, okay, that's like an hour of work at the most. If it's all in one big file, wait a minute. Oh no. Can you show me how you're doing this? She finds a word, pastes over it manually. Next, find, paste. Don't use Control F, use Control H. What's that? Control F is find, Control H is find and replace. But that's what I'm already doing. Look, just try. Just do it, you'll see. Pops it up, kind of speaking to herself. What's this? Find in source text, target text, replace all? She starts mumbling to herself, "Oh my god, oh my god, oh my god, oh my god," and crying softly. User the lighting guy had the best advice and said, "This is where you go. So you want to go for drinks and never talk about this ever again?" I think she deserved a drink after all that. Of course, if you're in that kind of profession, it feels like maybe that's a shortcut you should know. Next post. Computer needs an update? I'll just buy a new one. I work in the tech department of a major retailer and had this wicked experience today. The customer here is a man, roughly 50 or 60 years old. "Good afternoon, sir. How can I help you?"
I'm just looking for a new laptop.
"Maybe I can help. What happened to your old one?"
It's about a year old and keeps telling me it needs to be updated.
Oh? Is there something wrong with it? Or does it just need an update?
Yeah, it needs to be updated. It's old and outdated now.
Okay. What sort of things do you normally do on it?
I look at hardcore pornography.
Just kidding, that's not what he said.
I mostly go on the Facebook and work with Microsoft Word and Excel. Nothing crazy. I'm looking for something cheap. They need to be updated so often I'll never understand these $400 and up machines.
I'm thinking, if that's all he's doing and it's only a year old, it really shouldn't be running terribly slow or anything. We have plenty of cheaper laptops here, but if you don't mind me asking, why do you need a new one? If it only needs to be updated, then you can do that.
I'm not sure what you mean. It does need to be updated. That's why I'm here, you geschmuckena, to get a newly updated one.
At that point, the realization starts dawning. Oh no. Sir, it says it needs to be updated. It means the software needs updating. The computer itself doesn't need to be replaced.
I don't need to replace the computer?
Most likely not. How many computers have you gone through?
4 or 5 now.
If you need help updating, you could bring it in and I'll help you out with it.
I think I'll do that. Thank you.
The customer came in later in the day and I helped him through a Windows update without an issue. Yes, he feels stupid. Yes, he is very unhappy at how much money he has wasted throughout the old machines. Yes, he's glad I opened his eyes for him. I gotta say, my first thought is, who are the absolute sacks of garbage? We're like, well, I could get $15 commission on this. I worked at a credit card company one time, and my entire reason to be there was because the credit card legislation had just changed to where if you were to go over your limit on the debit card, it would just decline the purchase. Unless you wanted to opt in to be able to go over your limit in case of emergencies. It's really dumb. It's a stupid idea, obviously. Anybody who has like a quarter of a brain could tell you that. So I get an old lady calling in. The manager's actually standing right there listening to the call. She says, "Well, I've got 6 months or so left to live, I think, and I just got all my accounts paid down, so I was
gonna close down the account.
Looking at my manager, hoping she'd give me some sort of an out. Say, well, okay, not this one. Nope, these people are evil. So I gave her my spiel, read my script. Do you think that maybe you'd like this option on your card to be able to go over the limit in case of emergency? And she goes,
Well, you sound like a really nice young man. Do you think that would be a good idea?
I'm looking at my manager in wide-eyed terror, just waiting for her to be like, okay, dude, we're not going to potentially ruin this old lady's last 6 months on Earth and give her family more grief to sort through. Because that's what a human would do. Stone cold. No, I don't think that would be a good idea.
Well, thank you, young man.
And she hangs up. My manager's jaw is on the floor. What were you thinking? You just lost that commission.
I'm not a shark.
I can't ruin an old lady's last 6 months on the Earth for an extra 4 cents on my paycheck. What kind of a monster do you think I am? I got fired from that job. I wasn't very good at it. I'm a terrible salesman. Well, thank you all for watching People of Reddit today. Give me some of your examples of horrible tales from tech support, from the side of the customer or from the side of the employee. Go at it. Make sure to join me next time on People of Reddit. Make sure to like and subscribe so I can complain about more stuff in front of you, and thank you. Oh no.